Hello. Let me try to fix this. Let's fix this. Okay. I'm in there now. Let me make sure. Yes, I forgot. Okay, I'll fix it. It is now listed. Thank you, Karen, for pointing that out to me. Ooh, I look all red. Ooh, wonder what that is. Probably just the color. Anyway, here we are. I had 2 great weeks of gigs. And because of the gigs, lots of makeup lessons and stuff like that. So, yeah, thanks for understanding. But we're now back to it. And there'll probably be some more days like this because it's that time of the year. I see I've got a bruise. Anyway, yeah, so hello, everybody. We're back. So, any questions to start with? I've been so like not inactive, I guess that's the right word. I've been so inactive on YouTube that I don't have any other questions. Hello, Kevin, and Karen says, welcome back. I'm glad to be back. Any questions to get us started? I don't have anything off the top of my head. I guess while we're waiting, I can tell you what kind of gigs I did. The first gig in that run, and most of the gigs in this run, just not all of them, were with the band from Austin called The Grooves. So that was nice. And then I played 2 gigs, a Sunday and a Tuesday, with a klezmer band. That was nice too. And then I had some more with The Grooves. And then I had a jazz brunch gig. Just me and a piano player. That was nice. Karen says, I brought my flugelhorn to a small church practice, and it sounded better than my trumpet. I think it is a little easier to play, but heavier. Yeah, very nice. Yeah, the church stuff depends on the situation. The church stuff, it can be a lot nicer with the flugelhorn. Can be a lot nicer. I won't tell you why. I took both flugelhorns to my jazz brunch gig, and I played the old one for a while, and then I went back to the new one, and oh my, I should keep that old one locked up because it's a much better horn, a much more a more wonderful sounding horn than the new one. The new one is actually older than the what I call the old one. My old flugelhorn, the one that I ran into the ground, with literally thousands of gigs. It's got to be thousands, really. I got the flugelhorn in 1980, and I took it practically to every single gig. The only time I don't take my flugelhorn is when I have to get on the airplane because I carry both at the same time. On the airplane, that makes things a little bit more difficult. So, Karen asks, is there a trumpet that plays more like a flugelhorn? And the truth is, yes. I'll never forget, I went to a jam session. Someone took a video and posted that video on Facebook. Sorry for my yawning. Posted a video on Facebook, and so a friend of mine, he's kind of famous. His name is um, what's his name? um, Andre Hayward. Andre Hayward asked, "Who's the flugelhorn player?" And she writes back. She says, "That's Eddie Lewis." And he goes, "I should have known, right? He hasn't seen me since the beard going white and all that." He didn't recognize either me or the fact that that wasn't a flugelhorn. So what am I talking about? The trumpet in the background. Where is it? This sounds like a flugelhorn. And I see I need to like get it cleaned. Um, I'm not putting it back there again. I think my cats. I've been leaving my instruments out. My trumpet teacher in college at UTEP um, had this philosophy, and he taught it to me. He called it targets of opportunity, right? And he said that you leave your trumpet out, don't put it away. That way, you can just pick up extra time to practice like that. So, you're waiting for something to happen, grab the horn, pick it up, play it and that's actually, so, oh, I didn't put ads. I'm sorry. I tried to take those ads off. If I missed it, I apologize. So yes, this trumpet here plays like a flugelhorn. People don't realize. They say, "Is it a cornet? Is it a flugelhorn?" And it's because it's got a weird shape, right? Um, but yeah, they think it's when they hear the sound of it, it sounds a lot like a flugelhorn because of the size of the bill and the design and all that. So, oh, you're asking about ease of playing, not sound. Um, that really is a personal thing. Ease of playing. So, remember what I say about the balance of the sources of resistance. I'm going to try to open up my chart software here. And then I'm going to share screen. All right, so let me share screen. Okay, here we go. All right, so if you consider what we call the player system. Now I'm getting this information from a variety of sources. First, this is a term that the trumpet players used to use in the 90s um, to describe, and nowadays I don't make up my own terms if there's already a term for it. This is a term that describes the whole player. Now, what is the whole player? Let's say that this is the trumpet player. There's the trumpet. Okay. And inside the trumpet player is the lungs, the abdomen. So the player system, I had just realized my ring is missing. That's how much weight I've lost again lately. Um, my ring must have slipped off. Anyway, the player system. Why do people talk about the system? We have a tendency to talk about the instrument itself. And yes, so when you talk about the instrument, you have to talk about, first of all, the standing wave. And what is a standing wave? Once the vibrating air hits the outside of the trumpet, it actually doubles back. It actually doubles back. We call that, it doubles back and then it hits your lips. We call that the standing wave. The standing wave doubles back and vibrates the lips. Okay? Now, when I had that series of lip buzz controversy videos, it's worth mentioning right now that the people who believe that the lips don't buzz believe that the standing wave is so strong when it reaches back to the lips that the standing wave itself is what vibrates the lips. So that's why I said in that video that it's either the standing wave is a standing wave or it's not a standing wave. You cannot physically play without a standing wave. Either those fundamental principles are true or those fundamental principles are not true. It doesn't change because you did something different. Okay? Those fundamental principles are either true or are they not, or they are not true. Okay? Anyway, let's move on. So, so when we have a standing wave, it creates resonance. And that resonance is what makes it easy to play. But a lot of people stop there, and what I learned from the guys online in the 90s is that the vibration at the lips, the vibration itself does not stop at the lips. So instead of just the trumpet vibrating, the whole player vibrates. So let's think about that for a little bit. Instead of just the resonance within the horn itself, it's also the player, the cavities inside the player, whether it be air cavity or fluid cavities, the cavities inside the person's body actually play a role in how everything vibrates. Not and some people are aware of some of this when they talk about opening the mouth, opening the tongue arch, raising the tongue arch, opening the throat. All of this stuff affects the whole player system. So when we play an instrument that works, well, before we go on to that, let's take it one more step farther. Further, not farther, sorry. Let's take it one step further. Later, after I learned about what these people call the player system, I also learned that the room that you're in is part of that system. So, is it true then that you could have a trumpet that plays great in one room and not so great in another? Yes, it's true. Because part of the resonance is what resonates outside the bell and how it bounces off the wall and all of that stuff. A smaller room has a faster bounce. Bigger room has almost no bounce. But we also have conditions like what if the wall is glass? What if the wall is carpeted? What if the wall has curtains and carpet? So the player system is bigger than just the trumpet. So we have a tendency to think, oh, this trumpet plays well. And so this is also, by the way, why a trumpet will work real well for one person and terrible for another person. Does that make sense? So yes, our equipment is just one part of the whole physical equation. So and the reason I'm sharing this with you is because of the implication this has to how a trumpet plays. What makes a trumpet play easy for you is a trumpet that matches your system. So when you say that your flugelhorn is easier to play than the trumpet, this is why. You found a flugelhorn that matches your ability to resonate much better. Now, it could also be the room, okay? It could be that the flugelhorn works better for you in that room or not. You might have found a flugelhorn that just works better for you in any room. But this is why nobody can tell you, oh, and when other trumpet players and pardon me, I'm not trying to put them down. When other trumpet players pontificate as if they've got all the answers. This is the reason why they don't. This, what I just drew here, when it comes to stuff like this, if a trumpet player says, well, that trumpet, or for that matter, if a salesman, but I repeat myself, a trumpet player and a salesman are sort of one and the same. Yes, if a trumpet player or a trumpet salesman says to you, well, that's because that particular trumpet is designed this way, and that particular flugelhorn is designed that way, and it really comes down to, I'm making all this up, right? It really comes down to the weight and the dimensions and stuff like that. So you really should buy this one. They don't know. The only way you're going to know if something works for you is to try it. Nobody knows until they try it. Have you noticed that I don't have any endorsements? I don't even endorse what I sell. I don't even endorse the Warburton mouthpieces. I sell Warburton mouthpieces. I haven't sold one this year yet, but I have sold. So why do I not endorse them? It's because of this stuff. That, most of the companies, that's what they want. They want you to be able to tell the people, this is a better horn. And that's not how it works. Now, you can tell people that the craftsmanship is better. There is such a thing as that. Okay? You can have better built trumpets and worse built trumpets. You can have that. That is a thing. Okay? But better playing trumpets, that's when you look at that chart that I just showed you, that's evidence that there's no such thing as a better playing trumpet, except for you personally. You can find what works better for you. And don't let anybody tell you, because, here's the weird thing about that, right? Your trumpet could be a poorly built trumpet, but because it's built a certain way with certain materials that match your desires, match your needs, you could have a trumpet that sounds great but's built poorly. And for me personally, if I find a trumpet like that, I'm going to buy it and play on it. Kevin says, this helps explain why it seems like my Besson trumpet plays easier and sounds better than my Bach, even though the Bach is supposed to be a much better horn. Both have the same bore. That's right. That's right. Larry says, hello, Larry. Nice to see you. Larry says, I have the luxury of owning a few Martin Committee trumpets, and they are all different from each other. That's another thing. So back in the days when it wasn't all computer generated, all the horns, even the same model, all the horns had slight variations, and that's a thing. That's common. And with a slight variation, you might find an instrument that works really, really well for you, but doesn't work well for anybody else. That's just the reality of it. And if you know this, Now you're protected against those people that will just sell you something. Always be weary. Always be weary of someone that's trying to turn music into something scientific. Um, I love, I don't know if I've told you guys this before, there's a book that I just love to play out of. It's called um, Evie's, I think it's Evie or Evie. Ha 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 ha. Larry says he endorses Eddie Lewis publications. Um, there's a book that I love to play called Evie's. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. Evie's Scientific Method for Trumpet. I love playing out of this book. But I looked it up. I wanted to know. I wanted to know what makes it scientific, and why did they use the word scientific. So I looked it up in a Google search, and it took a long time because that method I don't think is very popular today. I just looked now, and it is available on Q Press. But I couldn't find anything about it until I dug deep into a forum. And the nice thing about the forums in the 90s is that they weren't, how do I put this without sounding offensive? Because the forums today are littered with uneducated people. And I don't mean that as an insult, don't get me wrong. I'm just comparing it to what we had in the 90s. Most of the people in the forums in the 90s were extremely educated. It was like getting a doctorate degree participating with them. And yes, some of them got bent out of shape because how dare I question, right? And there was a lot of that. And in fact, my opinion about music being subjective, a lot of it was tested in those days when I was participating in the forum. Because even though they're extremely intelligent and extremely educated, they can also be wrong because of the dogma that they believed in. Okay? But when it comes to stuff like historic content and who did what and what players were used in what video, and these guys, I mean, it was an amazing experience. An amazing experience. They know their stuff, and some of them were like a lot of the stuff that I teach today. Like when people ask about heavy valve caps and stuff like that, um, I got that from one player. I got the information that I have from one. He used to be a Maynard Ferguson trumpet player, right? Um, Lives in Chicago. He teaches physics during the day, and he's a trumpet player at night. Um, and his articles on heavy valve caps and all that stuff is just amazing, right? Anyway, so my point is that in those days, the guys in the forums were extremely intelligent and extremely smart, educated. And so when you ask them stuff about history, they knew what they were talking about. And so I did a search and I found an article. It wasn't the forum that participated in all the time. It was a different forum. I don't remember which one, but they were talking about the scientific method. And in fact, nothing scientific about it. Why did he call it scientific method? Because in the 20s, that's 100 years ago, in the 20s, it was a fad to call everything scientific because that's what the buzz was. That's what sold products in the 20s, is calling things scientific. So this guy decided to call his method the scientific method. It's just a way to sell. And that technique has not changed in 100 years. So anytime someone tries to tell you, oh, it's scientifically proven to be a better trumpet, not really. And now you know why. When you look at that chart, now you know why it's not scientific. There's too many variables. There's way too many variables. Now we just have, anecdotally, three pieces of evidence here. We have Karen that says that her flugelhorn is easier to play than a trumpet, which is kind of backwards. What we expect is the flugelhorn to be a little harder. So that's one piece of evidence. Then we have Kevin saying that uh his Getson, did he say Getson? Oh, blessing. The blessing, the blessing plays better than his Buck. That's another piece of evidence. And then we have Larry saying that even though he's got a few of the same Martin committees, they play differently. These are all three evidences that there's nothing scientific about it. And it's true for all of it. Now, in the case of what I showed you with the player system, that makes it true because of the complexity. You can't measure that, right? You can't measure. And if you did, that would be a huge project that would never pay itself off, right? And there would never be any reason to do that kind of measurement. So without measurement, there is no science. Did you know that? Without measurement, there's no science. And you cannot measure the player system. So Kevin says his trumpet is a L1 lightweight. If anyone is curious, Blessing tried to branch into affordable pro horn market in the 90s. This was one of them. Hey, that's cool. That's cool. So, anytime someone tries to make it sound like, and let's talk about why teachers would do this. Kevin says he's the limiting factor. Let's talk about why teachers would do this. And don't get me wrong, I'm not bad mouthing any teachers. I'm bad mouthing a practice. Okay. I like teachers. I'm one of them. My best me is a teacher. You know how people say I'm my best friend, right? My best me is a teacher. So yes, Why do teachers try to do this scientific thing? So that you believe them. They want you to believe it. Why? Because, and this is a revelation I had recently, like in the last couple of years. People, hear me out, people believe science more than they believe the Bible. And maybe to you that's not shocking. To me, that's shocking. And I'm talking about church people believe science more than they believe the Bible. Church people, I mean avid church people, the ones that go every week, if you ask them the questions that discover what they believe, they always put what is scientifically true over what is biblically true. I shouldn't say always, but I'm going to say 99% of the people out there. 99% of church goers that I, and of course, this is not, I'm talking about my own, I like to talk to people and figure stuff like this out. So within the people I've spoken to, now I don't ask them, you don't ask a question like that. You don't say, which do you believe more, science or the Bible? They're going to say the Bible. But ask them specific questions without asking that question. Ask them specific questions, and they will tell you that they believe. Let's use diet for example, because this is how I figured this out. We were told for so many years that saturated fat was bad for you. In fact, it was in 2019 when the article came out and said, "Ooh, we were wrong." How much did that discovery that we were wrong change society? It didn't. People still believe that saturated fat is bad for you. Okay. Uh, so what does the Bible say? They told you don't eat red meat. One of the most often eaten foods in the Bible is uh, the cow and sheep and goats, all red meat, right? Ha 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 ha. Larry says it's a scientific fact that Eddie Lewis is good for your trumpet playing. You see what I'm saying? Now I know you understand. Oh my. Yeah, so that's why the teachers do that. It's a way for them to sell their thoughts, their ideas, their beliefs to you. Because I'm not talking about you individuals, but you, the general public, believe everything you hear that's got the scientific label on it. And I can sort of understand why you would believe science. It's more current than the Bible, right? I mean, that's what people say. It's more current than the Bible. Um, Here's the problem with that. Science is not. Um, Science is like, look at what I'm saying. For so long, they said that saturated fat was bad. They said it was bad. Turns out you actually need it. You need it more than most people are getting it. So if you believed the science before they figured out it was necessary to get saturated fat, then you were believing something that wasn't true. And I had a argument one time with a friend of mine on a gig, and he goes, "Well, Eddie, you can't say that. Science is constantly upgrading and changing." Um, but we happen to know, if you dig deeper into it, the reason why the original people said that saturated fat was bad for you was for political reasons. It wasn't based on science. It was for political reasons. So no, I don't think it's safe to trust science more than the Bible. I don't think so. Science gets it wrong. And I know that makes me out to be one of those like super religious wackos, right? I know some of you are older than me, and I'm not. I'm just saying, I've been around the world enough times, or I mean, around the sun enough times to know when people are pulling my leg. Anyway, so like I said, I see this in the music stuff all the time. People that sell you products, people that want they like to use the music. Like you see it in the master classes, right? So the guest person is there, and he's standing up confidently and delivering his spiel, and then he offers the scientific stuff, and you can just hear it in the audience. Oh, oh, what he's saying is true. Science said it's true. Science said it's true. It must be true, right? For a subjective art form. Music is a subjective art form. And the only truth that you have that is not subjective, we've been talking about this for weeks now, months. The only truth there is in music is cultural. What's right and wrong in a band, for example, is up to the band, right? What's right and wrong in jazz is up to the people who, uh, I called them gatekeepers recently. If you want to be accepted as a jazz player, then you have to do certain things a certain way to be accepted by the jazz players. If you want to be accepted as an orchestra trumpet player, you have to do certain things a certain way. But all of that is cultural. It's not that it's right or wrong. It's that that culture requires that of you. So, where the teachers get it wrong is to say it's scientific. If they would say it this way, dude, if you want to make a a symphony orchestra, they're not going to accept you unless you do it their way. That's truth. But to somehow conflate what they're saying with science so that you believe it, that's not true. And so in all cases with the music stuff, when they try to make it into a scientific argument, just let that go in one ear, out the other. I am not anti-science, don't get me wrong. That's not science. Even the diet stuff, that's not science. For the same reason, when you look at the trumpet player system, our bodies are more complicated than that. And I'm telling you, the scientists haven't figured it out yet. So none of this science stuff, I appreciate science. I appreciate the fact that we can put a man on the moon and that we can have people living in space. That's all of that's possible because of science, and I readily agree with that. But don't try to make science into something it's not, just so you can prop yourself up. No, You're not propping anything up when you do that. That's not science. Anyway, let me read Larry's thing. I've been going through your Pioneer Trumpet tonalization studies. I'm at step 5. My question is there something I should be thinking or not thinking for that matter while going through these? Don't think anything. That's the beauty of the accumulative method. No thinking involved. Don't get me wrong. So let me see what step 5 is. Let me pull that book up real quick. Just about there. It's funny. I've got so many books now. Why is this not? Oh, it's not in alphabetical order. Why is that not in alphabetical order? Okay, let me try this again. Tonalization, Pioneer. All right, here we go. Okay, step 5 is when you do the expansion. Okay, now it's in the book. Let me make it clear. You choose which of the 2 expansions you want to do. Don't do both. Okay, it says this. Okay, don't do both of them. Just one. There are 2 sets. The first set starts on page 30. The second set starts on page 42. Is that right? That doesn't sound right. Oh, I'm sorry, 39. Where did I get 30 from? Oh, I'm looking at the PDF. That was correct. 30. The physical page 30. The second set starts on the physical page 33. Don't do both. Choose one or the other. Okay? And it says do each exercise 10 times. The only thinking you need to do is when you add a new note, make sure it's the right fingering. That's the only thought. And for the 10 times, that's just the first or second time. The rest of the time, it should be autopilot. You should, if you're doing this correctly, you should be daydreaming. If you're doing these exercises correctly, you should be daydreaming while you're doing them. And I know this goes entirely against the people who are so into today, into the what do you call it, mindfulness in your practice. Um, I want you to strive for mindlessness. I want you to be able to play trumpet masterfully without even thinking about it. That's my goal for you. That's what my methods are for. Okay? This is serious. This is serious. I want you to be able to play the scales without thinking about what are the notes, what key am I in, any of that. You glance at the key and it just automatically starts happening. That's our goal. So I want you to not think of anything. Except for, like I said, the only time we should be mindful. The only time we should be mindful is when we are adding something new to what we already know. And I wouldn't even use the word mindful for that. I would use the word careful. Be careful that you don't learn something wrong, because learning something wrong doesn't set you back. When you learn something wrong, let's say you learned it wrong and you played it wrong for 5 days. It takes a lot longer than 5 days to fix that one problem. If people knew just how bad learning stuff wrong is, they would never chance it. If they knew just how bad, how hard it is to quote unquote fix stuff that you learned wrong. Now, I'm not talking about cracked notes. I'm not talking about when you can't get the high note. I'm not talking about stuff like that. I'm talking about you played B flat and it's supposed to be B natural. I'm talking about you thought it was a B and you read the wrong line and you've been playing D all this time. I'm talking about you thought it was an eighth note rhythm and it's supposed to be 16th notes. When you learn something wrong, and by the way, I'll throw into the equation stuff that you know you're supposed to do, but you're gonna quote unquote add it after you get the notes. What am I talking about? Vibrato. If you're playing a slow piece that's got vibrato in it, play vibrato from the beginning, from the very first time you play it, and we can say it this way. From the very beginning, play it musically. If you have an intention to play the music musically with expression and phrasing and style, if you want to do that in the performance, then do it from the beginning, because this is my reasoning. That's different muscle memory. It feels different. And we're trying to train your body and your mind. What you do, we are creatures of habit. What you do over and over again sticks. And if you don't, for example, put the trills. Oh, I'll add the trills after I learn the notes. That's different Muscle memory. Oh, I'll add the shake after I learn the notes. That's different muscle memory. Oh, I'll add the grace notes after I add the notes, after I learn the notes. That's different muscle memory. Why would you do that to yourself? You know, in all the years that I taught in the schools, the students always insisted. I think things are different now. I think because of my YouTube channel, because of the books, because of my success as a teacher, people don't push me on these issues anymore. Okay? But back when I was more of a nobody than I am now, the students wouldn't just accept what I had to say. And they all had this belief that they're going to learn the notes first and add the music later. It's a common saying, actually. Learn the notes first, we'll put the music in later. In all those years of me teaching in the schools, not a single person, not a single one of them played musically in their performance. And I have a theory about this. I have a theory about it. If you're waiting until you know the music, until you know the notes and the rhythms, how do you determine when it's time to add the music? How do you determine that? How do you know when you're ready to add it? And I think that's the problem, right? They get to the end of the time that they've got, right? All region is on a certain date. They get to the end of that time, and there's no time left. They barely can play the notes and the rhythms. And that's the actual words they used to tell me. I'll say, why didn't you play it this way? Why don't you play it that way? And they say, well, I can barely play the notes and the rhythms, as if that comes first. Do you see what I'm saying? So I'm going to apply. We're talking about being, uh, you know, taking care and what we think about. Think about that. When you first add a section of music, don't say, oh, I'm just going to learn the notes and the rhythms first, and then later I'll add the music. No, you won't. It's a cat parade. No, it doesn't work like that. I believe that we should be musical from the beginning. And you guys know that I teach what I call working backwards. And so I could be playing the last two measures of the piece. I'm going to have phrasing. I'm going to have vibrato. I'm going to have the correct style. I'm going to put the trills and the grace notes and all that stuff in there. My very first 5 minutes in the song, and all that stuff is going to be in there. Karen says, do you have a recording of I Will Sing Tomorrow? I Will Sing Tomorrow. I don't remember if you told me. How did you come up with that title? Most of those titles come from the rhythm of the song. Let me pull that up. I might not have. Let me check YouTube real quick. If I do have it, it will be on YouTube. Nope, I don't have it. And you know what I'm thinking about? I'm not sure I will ever record it unless I make an album of play-alongs. I might not ever record it. And the reason why is we've been having trouble with the music store. I had to, and I'm not even done yet. I had to start changing all the prices. Not, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying. You guys know that for me, it's not about the money. Um, but there are hackers out there, and I'm not going to go into the details. But um, one of the ways I have to protect myself is to raise the prices. I actually I'm genuinely apologetic that I have to do that. That's not what I wanted to do. Um, my history with prices has been kind of weird because I've always been kind of like, if I could make a living and just give the stuff away for free, I would. Really. And in fact, I did that for a short period. Um, I had to stop doing that because of the people who are um, they're not nice people. There's bad people out in the world, and the internet is a way for them to do what they do. And so my original prices were very, very low. And to the point when I very first started selling, to the point where I lost on every sale. And that's why I decided if I'm losing on every sale, if I'm losing money on every sale, then I might as well put it up for free and let people download it. At least I'm not losing money that way. But then that's when the hackers started getting in and taking advantage of my kindness in ways that I don't approve of. And so I started bringing the prices up. Now, I think I've told you guys this before. The way I set a price has nothing to do with my feelings. And it's because of this process that I've gone through. My prices are based on on cost. And it's just it's unfortunate that the costs keep going up in a variety of different ways. And I cannot, if I leave the prices the same place, I'm not even sure why I'm talking about this. If I leave the prices in the same place, it will do the same thing it did when I first started. It will run us out of business. We'll be in a deficit. So I have to raise the prices, and I understand that when you do that, you lose some customers. I understand that, but I can't even be open at the prices that I'm charging. And I won't go into the details, but you'll just have to believe that what I'm saying is true. Um, so I've been at it for over a week now, because I don't want to change the prices on my site and not on the other platforms. So I've been going through everything. Though I'm saving the books for last because the books aren't nearly as bad. But think about, so this is what I'm saying. Because I have to raise the prices so much, I can't sell individual duets. And that's why I was making the recordings, because I was making them for the individual duets. That's why, and I kind of forgot why I was talking about this. I can't justify just making random recordings. Those recordings I did make started off as a demo for selling the duet by itself. So I'm not sure I'm going to be able to afford that anymore. We'll see. Now, that said, I raised a bunch of the prices and I've been getting sales. So Huh, what does that tell you? I should have probably raised the price a while back ago. it's it's I got a sale yesterday for $56 worth. This is weird, right? $56 worth of individual duets that they could have spent half that money and just bought the book. I just sometimes I don't understand people. And I try to. I'm not sure I did it 100% of the time, but I try to put on at least on my site. I don't try to do it on Sheet Music Plus because this is not likely to be a problem on Sheet Music Plus or any of those others. But on my website, I try to put a notice at the top warning: this duet is also included in the book. Well, if they choose to buy that duet anyway and spend more than they would have on the book, it's the same exact duet. I just don't understand people. Now, maybe I'm complaining about someone who simply just wants to support me. And if that's the case, I appreciate I appreciate the support. Don't get me wrong. I appreciate the support. Thank you very much. Um, so yes, there is that. There's that possibility, right? And I do believe I got a sheet music sale one time from someone that doesn't even play music, and I don't even think they collected the music, right? I don't think they even downloaded it. They this person um, bought, I think it was like $150 worth of music, and never collected it. And I know who it is, and I understand that he's just trying to be supportive. So so that does happen. So I guess I shouldn't be so outspoken about I don't understand people. But if it's a real customer, um, that's a customer that has chosen to pay more on purpose. That's the part I don't understand. Anyway, I see we're out of time. Um, Thanks for hanging out. Larry, I wanted to tell you if you're still here, um, I'm still working on getting the coil bound up there. It's not as straightforward as I thought it was, and I've been real busy with gigs, so I apologize for it taking so long. Um, you're not ready for it anyway if you're on step 5. So I will try to have it done before you move on to the next level, okay? I will try to have it done. I might even edit it since I have to go through this much effort anyway. I might edit it to add that the same sort of expansion studies that you have at the beginning of that book, the Pioneer book. I'm thinking about because the Tyro book doesn't have all that. And if I don't, let me tell you this: if I don't get that in there for whatever reason, mostly time probably, if I don't get the expansion studies in there, then it's a good idea to buy the major scale expansion studies book. And unfortunately, I don't think. Now I might have made that physical. Let me see. Okay, it is available as a physical book. I don't remember doing that, but there you go. So the major scale, do not confuse it with the band scale expansion studies. They're two different books. Major scale expansion studies are for the tonalization studies. The band scale studies are for band, okay? So don't confuse the two. All right, guys, thanks for hanging out. God bless you all. Have a great weekend, and we will see you next week, okay? Bye.